Brothers and sisters, for the last few years we've been witnessing around the world a certain iconoclasm. Symbols or icons or things that represent something are vandalized, demolished, and brought down. ISIS started off by blowing up Buddha statues in Afghanistan. Sorry, that was Al-Qaeda. And then ISIS, by extension, any cultural monument, regardless of religion. And I'm thinking of that beautiful Hellenistic city. Can't remember its name now. Palmyra, yes, Palmyra. Thank you. A city which its ruins had survived for people to see as a cultural inheritance for the whole world, was blown up and videoed for our benefit and for people's enjoyment, it seems, to make the point that, in their case, Islam is better than everything else, every other culture, let's blow up anything else. But we ourselves in the Western world are doing similar things. It's not this year only that we've had statues and monuments vandalized or destroyed. This has been happening for the last few years, and I've made a point about this a few times. I'm bringing up this point, and I'll come back to it later on, because today's gospel reading allows us to think and consider what is going on around us. Jesus is traveling through the land of the Gergesenes, and if you imagine that Palestine has on its one side the Mediterranean Sea, on its complete other side is the Syrian desert, and right through the middle is the Jordan River. There's one lake called the Sea of Galilee in the north. That's a fresh lake, lots of fish, and a very fertile area of Palestine. And then the Jordan River descends all the way to the Dead Sea, all salt, and fish can't live in there, although we now know in this day and age that there are some microorganisms living in it. But essentially it is so salty that nothing can grow around it. It's the Dead Sea. So he goes to the land of the Gergesenes, and he is met by two, what is described in the Bible, demoniacs, people who were possessed by demons. Now, whether that was mental illness of some sort, we can probably identify that as such. And in a day and age like that, where there was no understanding of mental illness, we can probably identify the two. Here we have two people living isolated. Now, this word is present in our current discourse today: isolation, quarantine, not living with other people, isolating ourselves from other people. And the young ones have abbreviated the word isolation to ISO. So I'm going through ISO at the moment. ISO at the moment. That's a Byzantine musical term, mind you. And I thought, people are getting on to Byzantine music. That's fantastic. They're doing Ison. It's the humming we do in our chanting. But I soon found out that it is an abbreviation of the word isolation. But isolation can teach us a lot of things, as it does with today's gospel reading. So these people who are demon-possessed or mentally ill are rejected by society. They don't live in the town. They are living among the tombs, the record says, out in the wilderness, not having clothes, or sort of in rags. You can imagine the horror and the situation these people have found themselves in. And Jesus comes across them. There's a bit of a dialogue. We've talked about it in previous times. I won't go into it today. And he heals them from this condition, and they are made well. The point I'd like to emphasize today is the reaction of the townsfolk. The rest of the people who weren't demon-possessed, the people who weren't mentally ill, the people who were normal and living in the town. Well, they come out to see Jesus. They heard that he's healed the two demoniacs, and that was a part of their vicinity that no one would go, so that they don't come across these two. He's healed the demoniacs. But they don't come out to say to him, "Thank you very much for healing the demoniacs." They don't come out to say, "Welcome, thanks for coming to our land of Yergesa. Please come on into our town. Let us stay with us a little bit. Let us get to know you. Heal a few more of our sick. Teach us what you're teaching. We're interested to know." None of that. The normal people come out and they say to Jesus, "Leave." They reject him. What he did was clearly beneficial. What he did was positive. What he did is he saved two very troubled people from their condition. And the reaction is, "Leave." Now, was it they were scared? Were they overreacting? Probably all of that. There is a little interpretation that the demons were cast out and they went into a herd of pigs, a herd of swine, and the swine rushed into the lake and were drowned, and, well, the people of that land were breeding pigs and swine, which was against the Jewish law, and therefore there's some signal about that. And their reaction would have been, "Well, he's destroyed our livelihood. Please go." That's probably a factor as well. A mixture of those factors. But the point is, they reject him. There is a "please leave" sentiment. We don't want you in our life. We want to extricate you from our life. We don't like what you are doing or what you are saying. And not just them, but so many others in the New Testament reject Jesus' message. And I'll come back to current affairs, because so long as we were in the modern era and we were progressing, science and technology, which we fully respect, mind you, had lifted modern society to a realm where, we're abolishing war, we're not having as many wars, we're not having as many troubles, we're developing the idea of human rights, and rightly so, and we're progressing as a world society, and we're lifting many other societies out of poverty, and rightly so. We're progressing. There's nothing wrong with progress, don't get me wrong, but there is an ideological weighting that the word progress is given that crosses a certain line. And I've always argued, as have so many Christian scholars of the last couple of hundred years, that progress with a little p is good. But progressivism as an idea that colours how you view the world can be a problem. Because you decide what is progress and something else which is still good, now that's not progress, we'll get rid of that out of our lives, even though it's good for our lives. And that anything new is good. That's progressivism. And change for its own sake is good. That's progressivism. And labelling people as progressives versus conservatives, so as to say, oh, they're not progressive. They're not good for us. So here we had progress in the Eastern Mediterranean. We were doing all right. Human rights was something both, all nations in the Mediterranean basin were embracing for the last 80 years. The Republic of Turkey was doing well. Human rights, respect people, respect cultural monuments. You know, churches were mosques for 500 years, we convert them to mosques, but then you know what, it's disrespectful to the Christians. Let's be nice to each other and let's turn some of these mosques into museums so that Christians and Muslims and everyone else can enjoy and come and see these monuments. Good. No problem there. We thought we were progressing. Inject a bit more science and technology and economic prosperity, and then you get democracy voting in two extremes. And the ancient Greeks themselves identified these flaws in democracy. It's the best system, mind you, the rest are worse, but it has its flaws. And one such flaw is that you can elect all sorts of people. The two extremes we are facing in this modern world is, on the right-hand side, populism and nationalism, and on the left-hand side, socialism in all its shades, and there are worse and worse shades of socialism, all the way to Marxism and communism, both of which embrace violence and force and disrespect and label people something so that you can dehumanize them and therefore attack them and attack their symbols and attack their monuments and hurt people through your actions, both personally and culturally. So what happened on Friday, and why am I bringing this up? 2 days ago, the Republic of Turkey decided that the great cathedral of Hagia Sophia, which was the biggest Christian cathedral in Christian history from the day it was built, 530s AD, all the way to 1453, when it was taken by the Turks, turned into a mosque, was the biggest Christian cathedral in the whole world. It clocked 1,000 years of being the biggest cathedral in the whole world, until St. Peter's Basilica was built in Rome. It went as a mosque for 500 and something years, upon which Turkey adopts human rights as an idea, the notion of a republic, all well and good, and out of respect for world culture and the Christians of the past and the people who built it, designed to be as a church, turned it into a museum so that everyone can enjoy this monument of world history and heritage. Fast forward to 2020, and we have a populist, pretty much a dictator now. He's been in power for almost 20 years in Turkey. Suiting him politically to do this, no doubt about that, to distract his own people from some of his problems, his economic problems, he has moved armies into Syria, Iraq, and Libya. And the plan is, and he's already made it clear to his own people, 60% of whom vote for him, that we are now expanding, and our progress into the future to bring back our glory days is unstoppable, he has said in a public speech. So what did he do on Friday? Well, he's been working on it for a few months. He turned Hagia Sophia from a museum into a mosque. And crowds gathered outside of Hagia Sophia shouting, Allahu Akbar. Scenes which we've seen before. And people don't become fanatic from one day to another. They sort of grow into fanaticism. And it's getting worse and worse with Greece's neighbours, Turkey. Now, for all of us now, who feel it's okay to vandalise our history, Christian statues. In America, they've burnt churches down. Not Muslims. Americans have burnt churches down. The one across the White House a month or so ago. Bring down statues of people who were Christians for X and Y reason, because they abused human rights. But they won't complain about this one. It's like self-inflicted. If you go to Hyde Park here in Sydney, they vandalised the statue of Captain Cook. The various statues of Anglo-Australian figures have been targets, and we've had to put, as in the government has had to put security around these statues. Just on the other side of the park, Hyde Park, there is another monument next to the War Memorial, which are basically bullets. Bullets. Big bullets, this big. As tall as this building, half this building. Actual bullets. So we don't like the statues that spoke of civilization and bringing civil society to the world and science and technology and modernity. They're the people who brought in modernity to the world. We don't like them. That's colonialism, see, labelling. But we're okay with a monument which is bullets, actual colonialism, actual violence, actual occupation and oppression. We're okay with those ones. And those bullets are Turkish bullets. Because we're friends with the Turks, apparently, us Australians, as a result of our Anzac heritage, and we're happy to have actual bullets as monuments in our own city, and that doesn't bother us. The fact that what the Anzacs went to fight against was freedom, was human rights, was to liberate Christians who were being massacred by the Turks. And we absolutely say, lest we forget, but we've forgotten. We have forgotten why the Anzacs went where they went. And we're doing the opposite of what they would have done in this day and age. Because none of us are speaking against the human rights abuses of anyone else other than ourselves. We keep looking at ourselves, we turn the microscope to ourselves and say we're evil, and those who are actually abusing human rights, I'll bring in China, I'll bring in so many other countries. China, who has banned the Bible, thank you very much, a year ago, and arrests people for gathering in Christian groups like ours. That doesn't bother us. So going back to the Gergesene passage we read today, what we are doing as a society, because we are not seeing clearly and the truth is skewed, is we are rejecting that truth. And we are telling that truth, I don't want the truth in my head. It's too much for me. I can't face this. This is too hard. And it is a sobering sermon today for all of us to consider, because it's going to get worse. If we don't short-circuit this polarization which is going on, firstly in America and by extension in all the rest of the countries of the world, right versus left, and if we don't strike a balance in the center, they're both going to get courage. They're both going to push. They're both going to get more forceful and more violent. So, balance, center, and bring it back into the middle. That's up to us now. We can depend on our governments, and we speak logic to them, and we ask them to consider what is going on. But the two sides of the centre seem to sway to the extremes. We need to bring them back into the centre. And that is with our vote. I say this every time I talk about the democratic system. I have no place to tell you how to vote or who to vote for. That's your business. But it is my place as a truth speaker to tell you, please do an informed vote, because what you vote for affects us, affects our world. And we should not give courage to the extremes, and we should not feed the extremes. Bring it back into the centre. Those thoughts for today. In terms of announcements, our youth fellowship is gathering this Tuesday. We will be in the church at 7:30 p.m. A great speech will be given on Saint Marina by Vanessa Papastavrou, and the gathering will be attended by Bishop Emilianos as well. Thank you for being with us. Please come up the sides for the Antidoto. Thank you very much.